Did not know that.
Didn't either. Yeah, I mean, maybe I read it a long time ago, but it's been such a long time. I not read about like the side effects you can have from some antibiotics that it could block GABA. That seems awfully like unique. But it definitely felt that way. It was like most people would get like severe anxiety. I don't. I just get insomnia. Like I don't really get anxiety. Like you know, like no matter what you put me under, I don't really get anxiety. But I do lose sleep though.
Hey, how's that Titanic Explorer deal you got? What do
you... my little dive ship, yeah. It's like my time machine or my dive ship. Yeah, it's not going to be set up until right after this meeting. So someone's literally flying out. They arrive in like a half hour, and they'll drive out to our clinic and be here around 5 o'clock, which is an hour from now. So as soon as the show's over, I'm probably going to go right over and let them in, and they're going to finish setting it up, and it's going to be good to go. Very tedious, complicated, system to set up. Bureaucratically a nightmare to get. I don't know, the way we want to do it, we want medical oversight, and getting medical oversight on something when you aren't a doctor is complicated. Not impossible, but complicated. I didn't know.
Well, it's complicated if you want to get an insurance company to pay you.
You can get, there's specialized insurance for this kind of thing. That's not the issue. I can literally, there's a specific insurance company that will sell me insurance. It's more like.
No, I'm talking about from the client's point of view. If they submit for insurance, you got to have a licensed person there, right?
Right. I don't know that we're super concerned about that, but you are right about that. Meaning that we're going to charge so little on it that maybe insurance reimbursement will be more of a concern for other clinics. We're going to be a low cost provider. But I still want medical screening and medical oversight, but that's bureaucratically a nightmare. I did not know this, but apparently there are laws that if you're not a medical doctor, you can't hire one. I had no idea. You can hire a medical doctor. It doesn't sound right, does it? That doesn't sound like a thing, but it is.
Well, the key word is hire. What about 1099? You can't 1099?
So it depends on the state. So the way the laws are applied are different in each state. And so each state requires a certain amount of hoops to jump through to make it ethical. And obviously people do hire medical doctors. You have all these rehab programs that have doctors that work for them or contract with them, or 1099 is the most obvious way, and that's obviously true. But how do you make sure that in your specific state you are navigating, the fair market value stuff, the anti-kickback laws, that all has to be really clear in the contract that you're doing the dance that your state expects you to do. And some states are really loose and some states are really, 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 really strict. I happen to be in a really, really strict state. And so I am doing my research to make sure that I do it correctly. I don't actually have to have a doctor oversee it. And what we're providing is not technically medical. And so we're not doing a medical oversight, even though there's a medical provider. So that's like layers of like protection and complicated still. Like I want to kind of act as though we'll be under the most scrutiny. Would you make, so it looks like Jahan's asking about what kinds of things I would look for to screen for HBOT. So that's a good question. First of all, you're going to have history to consider, but then history in corroboration with focal slowing, vascular ischemia, which is going to be how alpha slows down and moves essentially laterally and on the back of the head. It'll slow down and move laterally. Then you can have frontal lobe beta spindles when they're like distinctly spindling at F3, F4. Sometimes that's an indication that HBOT could be a good fit. And you'll see that one specifically paired up with people who are reporting recent TBIs. Especially if you see mixed fast and slow together. So if you see these frontal lobe beta spindles with frontal slowing, those two in combination are a mix that make you wonder if HBOT would be a pretty good fit. And I partner with HBOT clinics locally for close to 15 years. And so I'm used to seeing what kinds of neuromarkers get you like really alarmingly good results that are like, whoa, that's a beautiful change in 30 days. Like neurofeedback's cool, but you can't reduce 90% of the slow content in 30 days with neurofeedback.
So the chamber, that just adds another tool in your tool belt for a totally holistic practice. While we're waiting for the other panelists, and other viewers and listeners, what do you think the ideal holistic clinic would look like, Joshua? Would you start out with like screening instead of filling out the clipboard? Maybe having looking at the genes or something like that. Like, how would you set up your holistic clinic?
Genes are not that prognostic, which is something that people don't know. Genes give you, like, you have this gene, so there's a percentage chance that developmentally you would acquire this phenotype, or you would acquire, you know, this disorder. So it's like, well, I have the celiac gene. Okay, you have a 5% chance of having celiac. Great. Like that's not that interesting, you know? And that's like, oh my gosh, you have the celiac gene. It's 5%. You know, I'm sure there are some genes that make it worse than others, but you have genes that give you a 1% chance of celiac disease. Like, so this is not very prognostic. This is more like they trigger rule outs. Okay. Brainwaves are a little bit more to the point. You know, they're a little bit more direct. They have to be corroborated with the client's experience. You know, that's what you want. You want this. Okay, I've got this kind of theoretical finding, and how I interpret this is going to be through the lens of my client's history. And then you have to be careful because you're a therapist, not a medical doctor. And then even medical doctors are careful because they're not a therapist. So it's like everybody's kind of staying in their lane and being careful.
Do you think that will like give you confirmation bias when you look at the recording and you're looking for what the genes are saying, or
it might, but that's you'll see Gunkelman oftentimes he wants to look at the brainwaves, like not know anything about the client, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't want to know. And there's something that is going to ring as profoundly unethical and yet profoundly ethical, depending on who you are. So, meaning that people are going to be like, you can't interpret something in a void of evidence because you have to have all the corroborating data to make sense of it. And at the same time, those are confirmation biases. And so it's like, well, which one is it? And it's like, there isn't a right answer. There's just like what kind of practice you choose to build. At the end, before you write your report, you have to look at everything. Does that make sense? But there is something that people twitch when Jay looks at data in a void. But if it doesn't stop there, that's okay. If that's just the first step, that's okay. In fact, that's actually quite fascinating, especially if their symptoms fit the client's experience, the neuromarkers fit the client's experience really well. If it tells a good story, if it tells a story that complements the client's experience, that makes sense and is very, very validating to the client. And they're kind of really engaged in the process from that point on. But you can't end there. Like, that's not where it ends. You add neurocognitive assessments, you add questionnaires, you add biopsychosocial interview, and you tie it all together before the end. And that's what makes it ethical.
So this holistic clinic that you have, would you have the chamber? I mean, you want more oxygen in. That's cellular stuff. This is video editing language, Joshua. You clean me up. But then you get into the photobiomodulation, right? You know, the red light. What else would you include in your? It depends what the EEG says. So you get the recording. You got to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and there's a toolbox of things that are useful. You know, it's hard to know where to stop. Like, once you break that seal of like, are you a multimodality clinic or are you a neurofeedback clinic? Well, it's hard to be just a neurofeedback clinic because you also have some other healthcare license. So, well, I guess I'm a talk therapist and I'm a neurofeedback clinic. So it's like, okay, we're kind of still keeping it reined into two modalities. And that's kind of how it stays for most clinics. And that's okay. Some people branch out and they're like, well, I'll do EMDR as well. I'll do psychedelic assisted psychotherapy as well. And then you add an HPOT chamber and all heck breaks loose. And you're like, well, there's no rules anymore. I guess we're going to do whatever we can to help people. So, there he is, the man.
What we got? Jay Gunkelman.
Hello.
Hey, Jay. Good to see you.
Jay, did you see
as well?
Did you see Joshua's new toy?
I was going to say congratulations on your new toy.
I'm very excited.
It's hardly a toy, though. You know.
Okay, I take it back.
There are hyperbaric oxygen therapy toy things that you can see too, but yours, you can sit upright on a chair. You don't have to be lying in a body bag with a window, so which doesn't allow for really high pressure, and you have a much better device. So you went high end.
We did. We watched the market really, really, really carefully. We waited for the technology to reach the point where the best pressure, essentially 2 atmospheres, is what you want.
Yeah.
It's just below the level of regulation, but it's just high enough to get the consistent gains. 1.3, 1.4, you get good results, but not consistently. The research is finicky. I wasn't comfortable being in finicky territory. And so the condenser technology evolved to be tolerant of 2 pressure and available to hard chambers below the regulatory threshold. And that's where it became interesting. We're still pursuing medical supervision integration, even though we don't need to. But that itself is also bureaucratically tricky.
Yeah. But you've got a doc to supervise too. So you have to staff up for having that kind of a device.
Yep, absolutely. So we'd prefer to have a doctor on board than not. It's tricky because there are laws that make that difficult to have a doctor on board, because hiring a doctor when you're not a doctor is difficult but not impossible. It's bureaucratically challenging.
Dr. Murray, how you doing?
Personally, I've found that hiring the doctors keeps the relationship about right.
Yeah, that's how I think it actually functionally works.
Well, I mean, it's doing things responsibly. And that's where I kind of hate bureaucracy. When somebody actually wants to do it right, then all these rules come in. So then people break the rules and act irresponsible. It's this vicious little idiotic circle. So anyways, hello, everybody.
Hey, good to see you, Dr. Murray.
Same here.
Yeah. So somebody wants us to point to FPO2 on the face. Luckily, I actually have my right eye available. It's basically the underside of the orbit, and it's as close to the nose as you can get it. For some people, one side might be closer to it than the other, but on the right side is close to the bridge of the nose as you can get and still be suborbital. And it's an attempt to pick up the orbital frontal EEG and influence fairly directly, because of that, the amygdala, the frontal lobe amygdala regulatory loop, basically frontally, and you're trying to tap into that via the orbital frontal cortex.
Now back to simple basics. Jay can take all the complicated stuff, but in my experience, when you're working with people with deep set eyes, be prepared that you have to stick it and stick it and stick it. It's an issue.
My sister did that in the early days of our learnings. And now, how about the video editor? That's like, if you're really anxious, it is the cannon to open up the door if you have anxiety. She said she did that and it shut her down for a day. Is that placebo, or can that happen with somebody where you're just like, oh man, she was wiped out, went to sleep for the whole day?
It's entirely possible. She may have had a sleep debt that needs to be paid. There's a lot of people that carry a lot of sleep debt. It's hard to test an adolescent now and have them with 10 minutes of eyes closed not fall asleep, which is awfully fast.
Hey,
so in our realm of it depends. I think this is a really good one. When you do a treatment and somebody's just wiped for a day, is that positive or negative? As Jay was saying, if you have a sleep debt, it finally permits the release, the ability to quiet, that permits you to feed yourself the sleep that you need. And you want to be really careful about these A-type personalities that say, oh, I was wiped and this was horrible and you ruined my life. So this is where get to know your client a bit, take the time to discuss what's really potentially happening there. So
Takanis, hi, I'm from Greece. I have a question. I have dizziness and vertigo from anxiety. All of this scares me and creates social anxiety. Can neurofeedback treat it? Keyword, treat.
Yes.
First of all, there's a lot of things that go along with anxiety. Anxiety isn't like, it's one little DSM checkbox, but it's not a simple thing. There's different things that go into it. It sounds like the anxiety that you're having is anterior cingulate and insula. The insula involvement is how you're getting the vertigo, dizziness going on. But the anxiety can be driven just off the anterior cingulate, but it also can be driven off the left anterior insula, which is the sympathetic hub. Sympathetic nervous system is the fight-flight portion of the anterior salience network. Anyway, if that's in fact seen in your EEG, then I'm sure we can take care of it. But what you've got here is a clinical question that needs to be answered based on data. Our best guess is yes, based on clinical experience, but that's assuming we see what we expect to see, I'm sure that we could have a good outcome.
I've had cases where the vertigo is driven by an inner ear problem, but the anxiety was still a reasonable target.
Yeah. One of the things, I know I've mentioned this before, but the KISS principle, keep it simple, silly. I mean, I've counted pretty high on the amount of people that come in with pretty bad vertigo. They're very concerned about this, that, and the other. And I say, go see your doctor, check for a wax blockage or a really strong wax buildup in the ear. And you'd be surprised how many individuals they just need a really good ear cleaning, and they can save thousands of dollars. They're so relieved. And then you can do the the neuro for the anxiety, etc. So make sure you don't forget the medical component or some of the simple things that we forget.
Yep.
Anthony, how you doing, buddy? How you feeling?
Hey man, doing good. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Hey everybody.
You under the weather there, Anthony?
No, just getting over some things, so yeah, it's great to be here with you all. So sorry I was a little behind here.
No, we were talking about Joshua's new toy. I shouldn't say toy. Yeah. Tool belt. Tool in his tool belt.
And the H-pod is that better for a specific phenotype? I know Jay has said ischemia, but I think that can present as delta, alpha, probably a few things.
Slow edge of alpha, and if it's chronic, you get white matter change that's in the delta band. So there are EEG correlates of problems that are due to ischemia that are undoubtedly going to end up being improved dramatically by that treatment. And combined with training, you kind of turbocharge the neurofeedback, and that you get an accelerated recovery. The good thing is that the oxygen can get to the downstream kind of choked off endpoint, but it doesn't have to go through the vasculature. Once it's inside the body, it goes cell to cell to cell. With that high a pressure, you don't rely on the circulatory pattern. It's basically within your fluid, it's transferred. So, and there's people that have diabetic problems with their feet that are having lesions, and their feet can't heal because there's no circulation. Well, hyperbaric, it gets past the impaired vasculature and goes directly through the fluid in the body. So.
Wow.
If you have a client who has vascular ischemia and they're having side effects from neurofeedback, and you're having a really hard time kind of doing, you can't do too little, you're doing less and less neurofeedback and you're still getting side effects, it can be a really good escape protocol to just simplify things and make the neurofeedback work with less trauma.
Yeah,
that's a mild way of putting it. There's a lot of uses.
Might hop down and sit in your tank there, Joshua.
Yeah, I'm going to start that's like the 7 or 8 a.m. slot is going to be mine for the first 2 months.
Yeah, I hear you. I always take the last appointment of day if it's available. Take me down, please, everybody.
So help me out. So what's the brochure going to look like, Joshua? Like, is it an hour session, 20 minutes?
There won't be a brochure. There is.
Will I see the Titanic? Will I see the Titanic? Well, I want to know.
There's no way that I could possibly meet demand if I opened it up to the public. We're not charging enough for it.
Yeah.
It's going to be just for my clients. So there won't be a brochure. You have to understand, people generally, for vascular improvements, they generally use it 5+ days a week. And so how many slots do you really have? If you're supervising it properly, you have 6 slots, maybe 8 if you're shrinking it down to an hour, which you're not going to be able to do for some cases. So you might have six slots a day. If they're doing it 5 days a week and you're doing 40 session dives, that's 21 operating days a month. That's 2 months per referral. That's 3 months. That's 3 referrals a month, and you're full. You only get to put 3 people in a month. You're full. So we're not really going to compete with the local clinics.
But I mean, do you put a quarter in the side of it? Do you is it a 20-minute session, 40 an hour? Give me the expectations.
If it had a quarter slot, you'd be standing there for a while. So perhaps a credit card slot might do,
There you go.
I think the brochure would say no room at the inn today.
Yeah.
We'd like to have a 2.0 pressure for like $65 to $80 an hour or something like that. We're trying to see if we get it that low. I don't know if I'll be successful. We're going to try. And the local rate is $200 to $300 an hour. So what we're trying to do is really to serve our clients. We're not trying to serve the community.
Now, can you mix that into are they even around anymore? The oxygen bars? I'm not going to say scam, but go in there, give me a hit of that Apple Air.
Yeah.
I guess the dispensaries took care of that.
Not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a fairly quick recovery for a bad hangover, however.
Okay.
Straight oxygen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a young lifeguard, we saw that done in many a morning.
Jay, bad advice, Jay.
Oh no.
And if you've been doing straight oxygen for a while on a mask, your oxygen level you have a huge capacity to swim underwater. And as a lifeguard, the noon you come up out of the locker room to the pool, and you dive in. And we had a 50-meter pool. You swim down and back underwater, and come up without breathing hard, because you're just so full of oxygen when you went in. And people think, well, geez, that's quite an astounding, feat, but it's just a trick,
Well, in the dangerous thing of what we shouldn't be talking about, professional swimmers or Olympic swimmers and things, do they do little cheats like that, or is that against regulations?
How would you track
You'll
it?
see people sitting on the sidelines in football. With
that I've seen. Yeah.
Wait, I missed it. What was the cheat that gets the extra oxygen, or?
Well, I think you upload a lot of oxygen, so you don't need as much in the next 3 minutes or so. Correct, Jay? Is that the way to read it?
You saturate your body with oxygen, and your lungs are at that point essentially 100% oxygen.
Houdini.
You can go down to normal oxygen percentage 20 something, so you can burn a whole bunch before you end up starting to actually sense the need to breathe. And swimming underwater, you get to a point where your body wants to breathe, and you have to fight not to either breathe underwater or you have to come up. And that you can do 100 meters underwater without that happening. You come up at the other end looking like you're not even breathing heavy. So.
But what were you doing before? Were you sucking on an oxygen mask, or what? I missed that part. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Down in the locker room, we had, it was a swimming pool. We had big tanks of oxygen.
Wow.
Because public facility, and you'd potentially have a need for it.
Jay, speaking of the water, have you heard of this style of breathing, Wim Hof breathing? Is there any chance that some of those can create kind of the hyperoxia or other conditions that maybe HBOT serves to create? Just curious.
If you do essentially hyperventilation,
yes,
the forced deep breathing at a fast pace, yes, you're going to blow off all your CO2.
Yep.
Okay. And as all of your CO2 goes, that's not a good thing ultimately.
Okay.
It brings in slowing in the EEG due to a metabolic change.
Wow.
Your acid-base balance shifts.
Okay.
So.
Hey, welcome, Anna.
That's awesome. Thanks for
Anthony. You want to read that one?
Yeah, let's go here. What are the biomarkers in EEG for mold and metal toxicity? There's some standard candidates, but whoever wants to take it.
So, toxic and metabolic encephalopathies, mold being one potential source. You have two kinds of EEG induced, both fast and slow. It's a low voltage slow EEG, but there's also hyperexcitable cortex from heavy metal toxicity, mold toxicity, so you can have excessive fast activity. And in the worst case scenario, you can end up having a cross frequency coupling between the fast and the slow and have a full-blown dysrhythmia, which is really a bad failure mode for the brain.
One of the things I see in the clinical queue is essentially a very, very high, low-high alpha measured at FZ. It's not discrete. It's just a measure of lack of homeostasis, and that we see with the black mold. I'm not sure about the metal toxicity, but we do see that with carpet layers. So exposure to too much glue. We see it with drywallers that don't mask properly. So the drywall, we see it with mold. So it's a generalized marker of some form of toxicity. Here's my, I know I'm not very popular with the marijuana smokers, but we obviously also see it with marijuana. Not sure what the connection is or isn't there, but for some it's a toxin as well. But actually, yeah, the metal toxicity, that used to be a big deal. Like everybody was coming in with their kids really concerned about mercury and heavy metals many years ago. I don't see that as much in our practice up here. What about
fixed a lot of problems in our world, so it got better.
Yeah.
There was a big issue. We used to put lead in gasoline. That's why it says ethyl free, is because we used to have a trademark derivative of lead called ethyl, and that's when they kind of passed it off as something that sounded like alcohol, but it wasn't. It was lead, and they eventually banned it, which thank goodness. It was a big problem. It was massive. And now all our gas pumps say ethyl free, which is lead free, which is a big deal because you used to just breathe this stuff from cars.
But also some of the
it made the lead bioavailable.
Great. So good.
It's not just lead. Like getting shot with a piece of lead. That lead can sit in you and not be removed and kind of encapsulate. That's not the kind of lead that's bad. But the lead that's bad is methyl, ethyl. When it's a form of lead that's actually bioavailable, and it
specifically reduced your peak alpha frequency, which is going to lower your IQ.
Lower IQ. It's stored in your bones. It's hard to get rid of.
That's that low high alpha marker I was talking about. Is this the time where I make a bad self-deprecating joke that I was the kid that always loved to fill the gas tank because I love the smell?
You do hear that.
Well, I am of that era, and unfortunately, it was true. But one other little marker now with the a lot of people have electrical fireplaces, but replacing the gas, also they're ethyl, so people buy the little bottles to fill up the fireplace. So you might want to be careful of that as well.
This is why. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say before we go on, let's just say lead. Like, what are you seeing in the EEG that says, you might have a metals problem here, or there's more to it, like a blood test to see it's in the blood, or like, what do you do?
Low posterior alpha, right? Or
a low voltage fast EEG is excitability, but a low voltage slow EEG is toxic or metabolic. And so when we see that low voltage slow EEG, we make medical referral for evaluation, basically.
Lots and lots of delta around in the day. Again, really good news. We don't see that much anymore. So we're doing something right as a general populace.
Frontal alpha asymmetry and mood and so forth. Well,
this is the next class I'm coming out with, by the way.
and I've seen that. It's well done. So we were pointed at an asymmetry in alpha early on, especially in the field of neurofeedback. Peter Rosenfeld patented alpha asymmetry training frontally, and Elsa Baer was working with him. So there was a group that thought left frontal alpha, but that was based on work out of Richard Davidson's lab, which was a valid lab looking at a group of depressives, and for that group, they found left frontal alpha, and that I have to say that hasn't replicated. It's not that you can't find left frontal alpha in depressives. If you have left frontal alpha, there's a high likelihood. If you have frontal hypercoherence in alpha, that's an affective regulatory problem. And if it's your alpha power is skewed to the left, we expect to have mood state depression, sadness, boohoo, sad, depression. But if it's skewed to the right, not to the left, we expect an agitated depression or anxiety. If it's at the midline, you can have amotivation, lack of initiation, anhedonia. All of those are depressing. Right, left, or midline, it doesn't matter. It's all depressing when you've got it up there. So right, left, or midline, pick your poison. None of them are good. What you want is to have a frontal lobe that has the ability for the alpha to be engaged and disengaged, not locked in. If the network locks in, the phase shift has happened and it's locked in the network, and it's stable, and that network doesn't shift again, the frontal lobe isn't doing anything. It's stuck. And it's supposed to regulate your attention and your affect. So, when it's not working, it's not a good thing. And whether it's right or left. The iSpot D study had over 3,000 patients in it, and they did not see a right-left frontal problem as a group. But there was a group of women who had left frontal alpha that was a subset of that depressive group. So again, you can see it in clinical practice, but it's not the only thing you'll see. And just because somebody says they're depressed, what the hell do they mean? I mean, how good are we at expressing our internal states? I'm depressed. Was that boohoo sad, or was that agitated, or was that anhedonia, lack of motivation? What do you mean when you say you're depressed? And you're going to find that the frontal lobe predicts that pretty well. Most of the time when I read an EEG, I tell people what I see, and I would call it out as the frontal alpha asymmetry and what it would predict. That's a pretty good hit rate. So, It's not.
I want to throw
I don't
another
usually
one.
get embarrassed in public just doing that, you know.
I want to throw another one out before we get to the next question, is be very, very cautious of natural process and mood. And I think as a clinician, we have to be very, very cautious of training or trying to regulate natural states. So when you have a little child who's lost a pet, or somebody older who's in grief and mourning, I am emphatic, do not touch those frontal lobes. There's something wrong with you if you don't feel quote unquote depressed.
Yes.
So yeah, very, very important to put that in.
Dr. Mario,
they have done retest studies on frontal lobe asymmetries, and that they are persistent despite mood fluctuations. So when you have that phenotype, it will exist without some neurotherapy to resolve it. It will persist. So there's actual studies showing this persists across time if you don't act on it. But I totally agree.
And also, I mean, let's talk about the liabilities. You know, sometimes when you're working with somebody for one, let's say they come in for anxiety and it's not an anxious depression. So the left-right asymmetry in alpha isn't. I'm not counting that one. But if somebody comes in for some condition and you see the asymmetry in the frontal lobes, do you treat it or do you not treat it? Like, is it critical to loop it in? Because again, looping in the anxious depression is very relevant. Or is it a phenotype that has, or a liability that has not expressed itself yet? That's a question I always ask myself, working with younger people, right?
Could you comment on Ruth Lanius's protocol of inhibiting alpha at PZ specifically for children? Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
And not just for any old children, Ruth works with PTSD and childhood PTSD, complex PTSD, including people that have dissociative PTSD. So, in her work, very much what she's working on is the default mode network. PZ is the rich club hub of the default mode network. So what she's doing is training alpha to be suppressed. However, when you're done with the training, it doesn't mean your alpha's gone down. It's teaching you control. It doesn't change your base state. In fact, it rebounds nicely. Thomas Ross refers to it as the renormalization effect after the training. So, but learning to inhibit it is learning how to control. You're learning control of your default mode network and learning it by suppressing at PZ. It's not uncommon for us to see a kid who's got a learning issue and their alpha is a little slow, and the default mode alpha at PZ, you'd like to take it from that 8, 9 and give them a little 10, 11, 12 into the mix. So what we usually do is suppress the theta and alpha band and do C4 PZ SMR style training, which is a 12 to 15, and it's called SMR-like training because SMR at C4, but PZ it's fast alpha. Niedermeyer referred to fast alpha as 11 to 16. We're training 12 to 15, for God's sakes. So it's a fast telemechanical rhythm. If you look at the distribution of the alpha, people that have alpha 2, 10, 11, 12 in the mix, and we're training some even faster than that, they have a superior semantic and declarative memory performance. So they sharpen up or brighten up. And the perception of having been trained to speed up your alpha at PZ has been coined the term brain brightening by the seniors who experienced it. And this work goes back to Tom Budzinski in the 1980s.
Jay, I like that you talked about how this is teaching control. And if you listen to people like Seaburn, she doesn't talk about it as if she's, at least on this podcast, as if she's trying to like condition a lower alpha there. she uses it the way she says it to me. My impression, she's almost trying to like shift their state and improve therapy outcomes. And what that has me thinking about, you know, I've learned from you, but as well, there's papers that you can find that say that alpha at T6 is actually the primary biomarker in PTSD found in the EEG. And so I would almost ask or wonder, is the person interested in alpha down at PZ for PTSD, are they better to maybe do like QEEG guided neurofeedback using phenotypes?
In fact, that's a horse race question. Is this method better than that method?
Clinical trial, yeah.
And that's a clinical trial, basically. And if you don't know which method is better, there's no ethical dilemma in randomizing people into one protocol versus the other.
Okay.
So it's a study that could be done. However, most of the time people are working in one approach or another approach, and they don't have an office that you could randomize because their office does this. And if you're randomized into that, it's not what this office does. It wouldn't really be a fair thing. But that's a clinical question. Again, it's a horse race question, and that race has to be done at some point. But we see good outcomes. They see good outcomes.
Good.
And it's not all T6. Ruth Lenius and Thomas Ross's functional MRI study identified the parasympathetic hub of the anterior insula on the right side as being a spot that's not working properly in dissociative PTSD. And when we do source analysis and we hotspot to the left anterior insula in a person that's got right temporal alpha and hypercoherent alpha up front, we start to think of this as, well, this isn't just anxiety and PTSD. This is probably a dissociative PTSD case.
Wow.
Fight, flight, freeze. The freeze is parasympathetic, and that's the right anterior insula, which is the parasympathetic hub on that. And they did really nice work to identify that. They studied PTSD and PTSD with dissociation, and the dissociatives had that marker. The other one didn't. So. Excellent.
Thank you.
Can I throw something in here with, extreme respect to Sayburn and Ruth? I've been in practice, collaborative, and then, on my own laurels for over 30 years. And I very, very, very rarely train down alpha at PZ with children. It's not for the faint of heart. Jay, you can override me if I'm being too cautious here. But I find there, especially with children, there are other ways to go after that trauma. Do you think I'm being overcautious here?
You mean like train the parent?
Sorry?
You mean like train the parent?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
gamma training varietally that can release the quote unquote PTSD.
Are we able to discuss gamma training on the parietal lobe to enhance intellect? Ooh, that's what I'm missing.
But can we not jump over that? Because I want to be put in my place with Jay if I need to.
All right, Jay, put Dr. Marie and let's get the Troon spoon.
No, I know. I think these are big discussions, because when you have these genius talents that have extreme success with these protocols, and then go out and do it. And I am conservative. I mean, everybody kind of knows that I'm very experimental on populations that essentially, or people that they're absolutely at their wits' ends, or people or adults who really, really can do their own risk-benefit type of thing.
We don't do research on kids with trauma.
Sorry, I don't like monkeying with alpha down in the occipit or the parietal with children. But Jay, illuminate us, including myself.
We commonly work with kids that have a slightly slow alpha, and we do C4PZ as a brain brightener. That's a very common approach. It's a stable brain brightening. You end up after the training with an alpha frequency that's shifted to a slightly faster frequency. Because you've trained the faster thalamocortical rhythms. 11 to 16 is the upper range of the thalamus. It makes rhythms up to about 20, but you can't see the rhythmicity beyond about 16 because the peaks don't line up anymore. It desynchronizes, which the term is appropriate. But we basically end up having brain brightening, and that's easily done. But gamma is undervalued, I think, in the neurofeedback world. It's not like it's ignored, but historically there was Dr. Shear in Houston who worked with kids from the school district who were, this is a long time ago, the early 70s. So the diagnostic categories were brain damaged, retarded, that this wasn't any subtleties at all, no subtleties of what kind of sensory processing problem or anything. These were kids that were failing in school, and they were thought of as damaged goods. They sent them to him. He looked to see if they had some gamma but not enough, and if they had some but not enough, he trained them gamma. After being in his program through a 1-year cycle, they were cycled back in anonymously with respect to their prior history of being declared retarded back into the school system, and they were all thought of as being superior students. And all they did is train up their gamma. Now, if you had no gamma, he assumed that there was something not right about the brain structurally or functionally, that there's nothing there to train. How can you train gamma if there isn't any? So
Jay, and how does that jibe? I feel like I may have heard you, sorry if I'm wrong, that gamma is not possible to be trained, or only in people that don't have it already or something?
The gamma has been shown to be able to be trained. Dr. Shear's device was a round face about that big, and it hung on a cord around your neck. And it was nicknamed the albatross for obvious reasons, something big hanging around your neck, but you could plug the electrodes into it and the person could walk around even. But that showed you could actually train up gamma. Now, it's essentially how much gamma power is seen across a period of time. Gamma occurs in brief bursts. And if you look with a Fourier, you're averaging, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. So when you have some and none and you average it, you don't have much. So the Fourier is a terrible way to look for gamma. It is looking for power. If you're small and you square something, you disappear. You don't get bigger. So if you're a fool, you look for gamma with Fourier. If you're thinking, you actually have to think in different terms. Look for rhythmicity, not power. Use the Hilbert transform, which was proposed by Walter Freeman III, not his father who did the ice pick lobotomy. That's the Walter Freeman everybody knows. But Walter Freeman III was the head of, he was a professor at UC Berkeley, and he taught for nonlinear EEG analysis. And Dirk de Ritter would come to Berkeley and consult with him. And the Hilbert transform was used by Dirk to identify gamma in the cross-frequency coupling of the dysrhythmias. So, it's a small world.
And Jay, I think previous comments of yours, you've said that gamma is meant to be nested in theta or alpha, and that there's some doubt whether that's a good thing to train directly. Is that correct?
If gamma's healthy, it's nested. It's seen in brief bursts.
Well,
persistent gamma is pathology. And you see persistent gamma in the pathology of the dysrhythmia.
Yes.
If the thalamocortical column isn't sending any information up to the cortex, the spot at the top slows. The alpha in that thalamocortical column slows. And when it gets slower and slower and slower, when it gets down to about 6 hertz, the lateral inhibition for this spot is lost, and the area around it invades, and you see gamma, a donut of constant gamma circling this spot, trying to take over the spot. And that's linearly related to the intensity of the ringing in the ears of the tinnitus. It's in the pain, the frozen postures in Parkinsonism, and the distress in the reward deficiency syndrome at the anterior cingulate. So, persistent gamma is bad stuff. And it's a natural phenomenon when you lose the input to the cortex for the gamma of the adjacent area to try and take over, because you don't want a spot to be used for nothing. It's going to be taken over. And its phantom pain is if I lose my arm and I touch my face on this side, well, the homunculus, the face and the arm aren't that damn far apart. And when you stimulate here, I feel pain in my arm that's not even there. So you're getting topographic movement of where things are being represented, actually. And when you have hearing loss, you have tonotopic shifts in the brain as to where the spot is that hears a specific frequency. And that's because of, again, it's neuroplasticity gone awry. It's a healthy, neuroplasticity is a damn good thing. If we didn't have it, what would it be? A rock?
It's just making me wonder. So MIT released another study showing that 40 hertz audio alone is enough to entrain and to clear. They actually looked at amyloid plaque levels, but I'm wondering, are they going to give themselves thalamocortical dysrhythmia if they do this enough, as you just described?
Well, it's 40 hertz stimulation actually facilitates the cellular mitochondrial boost. It doesn't make a specific network make 40 hertz.
Okay.
It allows cells in the brain to be networked and make 40 hertz, but it doesn't. It's not a force fit. You're boosting the cell's ability to be networked, but you're not forming networks.
Okay, interesting. All right. And then I guess Radar was waiting here, unless he's asking, how much can you shift your alpha peak? And then whoever, if you wanted to comment on the other stuff, please.
How much can you shift your alpha peak?
Yeah.
Well, you want to upshift or downshift, I like overdrive a lot myself, So,
overdrive.
The alpha in the back of the head is usually BCI answer 8 to 12 with a peak somewhere between 9 and 10. But if you have a little bit of an increase in arousal, you can be a little bit faster and a little bit faster. But when I was young, I had a 13 hertz alpha peak. That's a very fast sample rate. It's a very high arousal level, and not everybody can burn nitromethane without blowing up the engine. So don't do this at home necessarily. Faster and faster and faster alpha can be done. And at about 16 hertz, you desynchronize, and now you're a low voltage fast person. And low voltage fast is, well, it's anxious, nervous. I mean, it's a normal variant because Matthews was the lab partner, and how could you call it an abnormality if you're Adrian? Adrian and Matthews, right after Berger, found that you could see the EEG, built their own amp, and they looked for the Berger rhythm, and they hooked up Adrian, and he had a nice Berger rhythm. They didn't call it alpha; they called it the Berger rhythm, and they hooked up Matthews, and they saw nothing. EEG with no apparent rhythmicity. Now, they didn't have great amps, but he was a low voltage fast.
Mm-hmm.
And the term beta really hadn't come out yet in that respect. So, but if you could reach into the thalamus and change the polarization, if you hypopolarize it, it speeds up and up and up and up. And about 16 hertz, it's no longer rhythmic, but it keeps going faster up to about 20. But again, you're desynchronized at that point. If you can hyperpolarize it or shift the polarization more the other way, hyperpolarization, you can slow it. And you can slow the background alpha outside the BCIA boundaries down to about 3 or 4 hertz.
Wow.
Now, what do you have in the back of your head when you're 2 or 3 years old? Well, it's not alpha. It hasn't matured up. It's still way slow. But that's where you encode information if you have experiences very early life. So in the right temporal lobe, if you have adult PTSD, we see a nice alpha peak that's in excess. If you have childhood PTSD, we see an alpha peak in excess, but we see slow stuff there too, because the experience was encoded in the frequencies that were available at the time. It's an interference pattern, and interference patterns are retrieved with the frequency of the retrieval beam. And this is holographic or holonomic model of memory from Carl Pribram. But the frequency has to match. Why do you do alpha theta crossovers to get into deep memories and early life memories? Well, because that's where the stuff is stored, so you do alpha theta crossovers to gain access to preconscious, unconscious material. It's stored in those frequencies. You got to get down there to get it. Now, quite often you get there, but you lose your adult awareness and you cross over. You're in this dreamland and you get access to it. But when you come back awake, you kind of, came through and God damn it, I can't remember that damn dream. I was dreaming it 1 second ago, but it's gone, So if you gain access and you still have alpha, that's the alpha theta. Alpha theta trains you to hold your alpha while you have the theta experience. So you can bring up unconscious, preconscious material, but you have the adult awareness to deal with it, And if you have an abreaction, you have a SMR that you've already trained, and you switch to SMR as a recovery protocol to pull you back from abreactive bad material. Sometimes you have unconscious stuff from your early life that's really bad and you don't even know what it is. And when it stares you in the face, it's a little much. So it's nice to have a nice SMR recovery safe spot to come back to.
So in regard to training gamma, being that you want gamma bursts that exist within alpha theta, would it be advantageous to train CFC cross-frequency coupling of gamma theta? How would one go about it?
In fact, there are people that train that. There's theta alpha gamma or alpha theta gamma, depending upon which group you've been trained by. In Anna Weiss's work, and Anna Weiss didn't do neurofeedback. She did biomonitoring with the EEG, and she did guided meditation. But she was a master or a mistress of the technique, because she could guide you in a meditation based on having interviewed you really well, looking at your EEG. So Maxwell Cade identified optimal performance pattern with some gamma and some beta, some alpha, some theta, some delta, and the sum of each of them, but no gaps in between. If there's a gap in between, they call that a gooseneck. And they suggested that energy couldn't flow along the spectra, and that was an energetic blockage. So unconscious deep material couldn't come through to consciousness. So if they're missing a piece, you don't end up having that flow. And she would do an interview, and during the interview, she'd be taking notes about what frequencies responded. I'd like you to imagine the color red. Marie, there's hair red, flame red, blood red, fire engine red. Some imagine red flare would happen, and she would mark down next to red in her form the frequency. And as you go down from Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, Roy G. Biv is the colors of the rainbow. And as you go down is slightly slower frequencies. And you get into the theta frequencies in the purples and violets. And so when she's doing a guided meditation, when she would see a gooseneck, she would know what color had to be blended into the guided meditation to foster that frequency. She could mess with your mind with her guided meditation, having taken a very good interview and watched how your mind operated during the interview. And anyway, she was fabulous, and she's passed, unfortunately. And she wrote a couple of books. Anything written by Anna Wise, Wise, just like Wise, and anything she's written is really well worth reading.
I wanted. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
You want to read that one, Anthony?
Well, I just wanted to say, for a lot of these questions, like on the gamma, how to get more gamma. I mean, I can show you a paper right now. Keep it simple. There's a paper that says that gamma increases were associated with alpha decreases. So I'm going to guess that training down your frontal alpha is going to increase the gamma. And further, I can show you papers that say, and I think probably people would affirm here, your task-related theta, because these are bursts, right? Your task-related theta is inversely correlated to the amount of resting theta you have. So if you have a ton of resting theta, from everything I'm reading, you're going to have less task-related theta. That's memory access, that's cognition. And since the gamma bursts are supposed to be nested in that theta, I imagine if you get some more theta, you may get some more gamma bursts in there. So I would just say keep it simple. And then the question we have here, and if I got any of that wrong. Oh, and then here to Jehan, to synchrony and coherence. Since power and coherence are correlated, and if resting power and task-related power are inversely correlated, it seems to me that outside of maybe very special applications, you should not be training up your resting synchrony or coherence if what you want is better general cognition. And I'm sorry if that was real wordy, but I think I have my ducks in a row there.
When people use synchrony or coherence for training, they're not training it only in one direction without a limit. They have a range that they're trying to put it within. There's a normal coherence range. You can be hyper coherent, too stable in phase, or you can have too many phase shifts and be unstable. So if you're hypocoherent, your raw coherence value is dropping below about 0.1 or 0.15. And if you're hypercoherent, it's above 0.5 as a raw value for coherence. Coherence goes from 0 to 1. If you're identical, it's a 1. If you're not related in any way whatsoever, and how could you not be related in some way if you're both EEG signals, but if you're below 0.1, I mean, you're not related enough to worry about. There's a problem there. You're disconnected somehow.
So it sounds like there's healthy ranges, and that makes sense to me. Yeah. So if that's incorporated, it sounds much better already.
And that's when we look at the EEG. I seldom use the database myself. I've got like one built in, and I look at the raw EEG, and I'll look at the raw coherence values and interpret that data set and come up with what's going on with the person.
Dare I say there, Jay, it's on the 13 shelves of alpha.
Well, by the way, Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I'm doing a free lecture for the School of Neurotherapy, and I'm doing one a month different topic every month. It's only a 1 hour talk. They're little throwaway talks. But the one this Friday is basically about the fact that the field of EEG has no ground truth. And how do you make a decision in a field where there is no ground truth? You know,
what's ground truth?
The real thing. You know, if you go to an MRI and you stick a triangle in the MRI, nobody's going to give you an argument about the shape of what comes out. You don't get a circle out when you put a triangle in. You don't get a square out when you put a triangle in. There's a ground truth. The structure is the structure. In EEG, I'm sorry, there's no ground truth. You can have an EEG pattern that you see that's absolute. You can see exactly how big every wave is and exactly what frequency is there and where it is. And you shift your reference point and boom, everything changed.
Hey Jay,
so which one was right? Which one was wrong? You know, you have to be able to make a decision and make it, you know, properly. We have lots of techniques for cleaning data. Some people will say it's a data cleaning, and some people will say it's a ruining of the EEG data. And you know, you can listen to people arguing back and forth like my little sister did. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. But you can't solve that. You solve that by agreeing with one or the other of the opinions. You don't solve that with knowledge. In our field of neuroscience, we have a way to solve controversies. Peer review and publication.
Hey Jay, where can we watch this video? I'm getting a lot of questions on it.
That's the School of Neurotherapy, and they're online. If you punch in School of Neurotherapy, they'll have courses, and this is a free course. And once a month, and they'll have a schedule of what topic and what day on each month, and it's a different topic every month. And, is
that Nick and his wife, Nick Dogres?
Yeah, Tiff Thompson runs the School of Neurotherapy.
Got it. Okay.
Pete, I sent you the link, but it's going to be in your comments because I can't.
All right, hold on.
Anyway, it's a free talk. You get your money's worth.
No refunds.
Yeah, double your money back.
All right, I'm going, Dr. Green, with the pizza ovens.
Time to throw in what Jay is saying, and I echo something. No, just always look at your raw. I mean, whenever we do anything here, we have the raw and we have the artifacted, and I never look at one alone. I always look at them side by side. And yeah, of course, we have to artifact to work and manipulate to a certain extent, but never lose sight of it. And my major issue is people who computer artifact and never ever look at the raw. I think it's dangerous. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to get into the argument of one or the other. I think both are very valid. So
yeah. Cool.
I'm shutting down the pizza ovens. It's time to sell some pies here.
Okay.
Joshua, if I want to go see the Titanic and I'm in here. Who's here?
Yeah, well, he was there for a moment. He was trying to get up on my lap. He was licking on my arm, but anyway, he took off.
Joshua, I'm in Washington or Northern Oregon. Where am I going to see the Titanic?
Alternative behavioral therapy. Yeah, apparently we're doing some hyperbaric oxygen therapy stuff now. Apparently.
and you got to leave like right now to go hop in.
Yeah, some guys. I've got another employee that's going to meet him and start taking care of it. I've got to go finish the setup of the device. It'll be done tonight.
All right. Don't let the employee fiddle with the knobs while you're in there. Dr. Marie, I have trouble sleeping. You know of an app, and where can I get it?
Yeah, so we have the Swingle Sonic app series available at swinglesonic.com, and one of them is the sleep app for different forms of insomnia. And yeah, if you want to come up here, I'm up in the far north, Vancouver, Canada, the Swingle Clinic.
And of course, Jay Gunkelman, every October we celebrate the birthday. SusunSummit.com if you want to check out some of the videos there. Is that correct, Jay?
That's correct. We've got the videos from this last year, which are none of them had to be rated that you couldn't watch them. So I thought there were some that were close, but the AI covered it over very nicely. So now it's a 3.5 day an evening reception when everybody shows up and kind of greets everyone, and then 3 days of EEG discussions ended the last day with a birthday party for me. And I don't really leave the house much during the year except for this 3.5 days that I go out, because it's a risk for me to be exposed. I have a serious spinal fluid leak, and catching a virus up my nose could go straight into my brain. And I'm still using it, you know. So
yeah,
You're grateful for that.
keep it that way. Anthony Ramos, I'm in Florida, but if I'm on the interweb and I want to get some technology chat going, got any rooms we can go to?
Well, if you're not just talking to a chatbot 24/7, then please, get in touch with us on Facebook or something. I maybe mentioned it, but there's research I came across that social media of all kinds has been declining since 2022. This was in Financial Times, which is like a major British newspaper. And the thesis that seems to be gaining popularity is that everybody is talking to ChatGPT, that they're spending more of their day, whatever they were saying on Facebook, they're now saying to the chat box. And so I don't know if that's great. Go on.
AI starts out, its first thing is to flatter you.
Exactly. No.
Its first paragraph is what I call puffery.
Yes.
And after that, it tells you that you're the right, what your qualifications are, and you're asking the right question, and but it leads in with that. It's a give right at the beginning. You're being sold a bill of goods right from the start.
Yeah, we saw that a little while ago. I actually had a slide in one of the last presentations in terms of the shift of the use, and it now is emotional. So number one is emotional. Yeah.
So I have friends that text me their logs sometimes. Look what the AI said, and they're talking about deeply personal things. And I brought up this research that said there's people thinking, there's multiple articles now saying that the social media is shifting to the chatbot. And the first thing one of these friends said is, they said, it's just so validating. That's what they said.
Not a good sign.
And we thought we had an issue with, with recent trends in parenting.
Confirmation bias puffery.
Children just breathing, and here we are now. Yeah.
So they're not talking to social media, Dr. Mari. They're talking to the AI. So that's going to have a unique set of problems, I imagine. You'll have to be the AI minds.
Go in your personal settings and roughen up the AI on you. Come on now.
Well, you have to also be really careful about how you ask it questions. You got to be really careful because you have to understand that it's going to try to give you not exactly the answer you want, but it's influenced by how you ask the question. And
it's like a politician.
There's like an AI hygiene thing that needs to be taught.
Yeah.
And there are people that have curated data sets that their AI has been fed that it can digest and answer from, and that limits the hallucinatory references.
The RAG and GR models. That's what I like to use. Yeah, those are great.
Just like neurofeedback. That's what we call it, training. Everybody, see you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, panel. Thank you, everybody that showed up. Lynn's brain will talk about ADHD on the Thursday show. Take care, all.
Get some sleep. I'll catch you in the morning.
All right. Yeah, it's in a few hours.